Hi, I'm Molly.
And I'm Jamie, and this is our From the Pasture with Hired Hand podcast. As the owners of Hired Hand website software, we've been developing websites and creating internet marketing strategies for livestock breeders for the past 10 years.
The majority of our customers are involved in the breeding of registered animals, such as Texas Longhorns, Highland cattle, horses, and whitetail deer, where the pedigrees are very important. The From the Pasture with Hired Hand podcast examines many of the differences in raising pedigreed livestock for maximum profit. Join us and learn what we're covering today.
Thanks for joining me today, Shari.
Thank you for having me.
So I'm here with Shari Boyl of Boyl Family Farm in Kingston, Michigan. And you said you're going to get some rain today, is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, we had a dry spell, got some hay that needs a little water, so hoping for a little more rain. We got some over the weekend, but you can always use a little more.
Of course, especially during the summer, going into July, right?
Correct. Yes, we're early on our cuttings this year, which is kind of nice. So maybe we can add that fourth cutting and stock her in the back so we don't run out.
Nice. Well, why don't you start by telling everyone a little bit about yourself?
My name is Shari Boyl. I am married to Justin Boyl. We live in the thumb of Michigan. We were both born and raised here. So we live on Justin's family farm. It's a centennial farm. It was established in the 1800s. So that's pretty interesting history just to know and see some of the things that they did along the way, the barn and all of those good things. So here on the farm, we obviously have our Longhorns. We have a few show cattle for 4-H and those kinds of things. Raise some beef. We also have 3 German Shepherds and some other critters running around, chickens and whatnot. So it's a zoo here.
So is it bad that I'm not that far from you in Iowa and I've never heard it called the thumb of Michigan before? Is that like a common saying?
Yes, because everybody points to where they live when they live in the state of Michigan. So if you are in Lansing, or you're in Traverse City, you're in Thumb, you're in Detroit. It's your map you carry around with you. Anywhere
awesome.
in the world you can look at a globe and see the hand. So you live in the UP, it's a little harder to do but yeah, so everything in the thumb of Michigan, it's kind of funny, is named like Thumb Cellular, Thumb State Bank. I had a friend come from Iowa to Michigan State when I was in school there, and she looks at me and says, is it really necessary to name everything after the thumb? I said, no, it's special. It's a special place.
That's awesome. Well, I learned something today, so thank you.
You're welcome.
So you also mentioned that you have some show animals. I think you said for 4-H, is that right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Do you have any issues? Like I can remember when I was younger trying to show Longhorns in Iowa, they wouldn't let you because they thought they were dangerous or, they were just so different from other animals. Do you have any issues with that up there?
We do. Our show animals are beef breeds, Simmental, Maine Anjou, Canea. We don't have any ability to show Longhorns through 4-H here in the state of Michigan. There's no horned animals allowed here. So same as in Iowa. It is interesting though to go to the futurities and things like that to attend. Like we went to Houston to the stock show and rodeo this year, and to see those shows that we don't normally see with the Longhorns and the Brahmas and things like that. We do have a futurity coming up this weekend that we'll be taking 4 animals to, but you're correct. No horned animals in the show ring for 4-H for us.
I thought maybe that would have changed over the 30-some years, but I guess not.
I think part of it is that the Longhorn family is still a niche market in Michigan. There's a number of farms here in the state, but for instance, in Tuscola County, I only know of 3 like in our county, and 2 of them, one's just a hobby family farm, one of them is getting out of it, and then here's us with 40 something Longhorns in our backyard. So it's not a very common breed here that a lot of people have, that especially here in the Thumb, it's pretty it's not populated, let's just put it that way. So people tend to have what's most popular. It's easy to find a feeder calf or a dairy steer and those things. It is a big dairy area, so there's a lot of that that is at the fair. But we have sheep as well, and the kids occasionally, when they're feeling spicy, show pigs too. But
So how did you get into Longhorn?
We had a friend that bought 2 Longhorns from Texas. Actually, Johnny Hicks drove them to his place. My husband went and picked them up for him, and Johnny hooked him. So thanks, Johnny.
I think he's responsible for a lot of that.
Yes, he is. So that's how we got into it. We got hooked. We ended up then getting a few more of our own. We chose, we started out with just 2, and then had a third, but she had a calf, so we had to wait for her. And then we bought one at a sale, and that was in the fall of 2020. So we've been just growing ever since. So
is it a oh, sorry, go ahead.
So I just know that you also wanted to know some of the reasons why we chose them. Mm-hmm. And working with Johnny, he's very knowledgeable, obviously, in the industry, so we knew nothing. But for potential, that's really why we wanted to, but we're just getting started. Like, are we going to like this? We're going to hate this. Every time somebody comes to your farm and walks through your pasture, they're like, are you afraid of them? So that's another thing too, is that, will you like this when you get started? And that was we chose based on price as well. Like, we didn't want to spend $20,000 on a single animal when we knew nothing about what was going to happen. So.
And how many years ago was that you got your first 2?
We got our first 2 in the fall of 2020. So we've been in it for 2.5 years now. So we're relatively new, still learning a lot. So
is it safe to say you like it though?
Oh yes, we love it. Definitely. Definitely. What is the Longhorn family say? Welcome to the addiction. Is that what Dale says at all the at all the things? Welcome to the addiction, first time buyer.
So I know you mentioned you have kids and you have other breeds. Is the farm kind of a family affair? Does everyone have a role they play? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yes, it's definitely a family affair. Especially the boys do a lot with the hay and, all the baling, cutting, all of that stuff. Everybody steps up if things need to be done, especially during any time that we have to move cattle or do vaccinations or herd checks, any of that. When we went to Texas, my mom came over and checked every day on the animals, looking for new calves and things like that. And we have some really great neighbors too. I don't know if you obviously grew up in a rural community as well, but you always have the stalker neighbor, so you should put that person to work. So while you're driving by, could you pop in and take a look, kind of thing. So yeah, we have definitely a family affair, and definitely quite a few really good friends who help out whenever we need that help. And the girls, one daughter is really into it and really showed a lot in 4-H and, with the cattle and things like that, and is a lot more comfortable. And the younger one is more getting into it. She likes it, but she's getting used to it. If you're 15, you walk up to an 80-inch Longhorn and ask it to be your friend, right?
Right.
So that's part of it too, is that the thing is to be in there every day And that's what we do. We're in with the animals every day, at least a couple of times a day, and working full-time jobs, that is hard. It is hard to raise anything to do farming, anything to have any accessory hobbies or whatever with them if you have another job. And both Justin and I do work extra jobs. Luckily, I would say luckily from COVID, I got moved home other than one day a month. So it's a little easier for me in my office setup. So I look out my window right at the herd. So it's a great time, just to be able to watch them while you're working, kind of glance out there. So
I feel like you have to be very passionate about your hobby or your kind of your side gig when you're working full time and making that commitment. So that's good to hear that you like it that much that you still could do it.
Yes.
So I'm curious, do all of your neighbors and your family that help you, are they okay with even helping during the winter, or have you never tried to leave during the winter to head to a southern event?
Well, we don't really leave during the winter, just because a lot of times this winter's hard and there's a lot to do, but they don't have any issues with summer or winter, issues with tractors not working and those kinds of things, but there's really nothing to do with the animals at all. When the equipment gets too cold and those things. But this year, especially, it was a very mild winter and we fought the mud. It was 6 months of mud and it got deep and it definitely challenged my muck boots on more than one occasion. Stepping, it was mud for many months in a row. And so that was really hard. It's really hard on the animals. It's really hard on everybody. It just, snow freezes things and it's cold, but it's not as hard to work through as it is when things are getting stuck. You're getting stuck, the animals are just covered. So.
For sure. So tell me a little bit about how you came up with your ranch name.
Our ranch name was pretty easy. Boyl Family Farm, obviously, living on the family farm in the name. Then we wanted to just make sure that, it was represented for the Centennial Farm and the people that have been here before us and whatnot. So that was the main reason that we chose that. It was officially established in 1885, but they lived here prior to that. But obviously nobody really kept a lot of records and things like that. And it was an orchard and a dairy farm, and we still have the barn from the early 1900s that we utilize now. And so that was a pretty easy choice for us.
So do you have the same brand that your ancestors had, or did you come up with something new for your family?
We did come up with something new. There was never a brand for them. And I don't know that they actually called it Boyl Family Farm or just maybe Boyl Farms, but I drew the logo with the B and the F and added the swoop on the B to give us like the Longhorn look. My goal was to keep it simple so that when people saw the brand, they actually could kind of tell what it was. Some of the brands that we had looked at, just trying to page through hired hand and see them, looked more complicated, and we just were concerned, like, okay, if we do something that's complicated, then nobody's going to know what that is. And so with the B, with the Longhorns coming off from it, and the F for Family Farm, then seemed that people would know. And then the animals that we've raised and bred here, that we've added the BF to their name as well, so that it matches the brand.
So how recently did you get to put your brand on your own animal?
We got to put our brand on our own animals in 2020 because we had bought some bred cows. So that was nice. We do have some 2-year-olds now that have our brand on it. So that's very interesting, to look out there and see your brand on animals that are of breeding age. We do have a bull and with some heifers, and both of those have our brand on them. So we're excited to see what happens with that. Breeding is always interesting when you put 2 animals together, wondering what you're going to get.
Right. So now that you have had Longhorns for a while, and you're obviously, I think it's safe to say you're addicted. What's your favorite part?
My favorite part is really the diversity of them. So working especially with show cattle, say, you work on an Angus farm, so they're all black and they kind of look alike. You have to tag every one of them to figure out if that one belongs to this one or whatnot. And these, I just really love the diversity of the colors, the horn, the history that's associated with Longhorns. Missy turned me on to a couple of books that I've been reading, just talking about like where did they come from. When you look back into, especially now that Horns is showing more of like the Wichita Refuge, the Butler breed, when you look at those and you can see that in there, it's just that history is very interesting to me. So Justin always says he does the labor and I do the sciencey part.
Hey, whatever works, right?
That's right. Yep. You gotta split that up. So I do the feeding and the whatnot and the sciencey part, and he, the research, and he then does the research along with me, and it's definitely a partnership for sure. You can't do that. I don't feel like you could do what is required without a good partnership.
For sure. That's a good point. So I feel like living in Michigan, just in itself, you're going to have a great answer to this next question. But what's your funniest Longhorn related story to date?
Well, our favorite saying on the farm whenever we're doing anything is it's all mud until it gets in your mouth. And then all bets are off. So we were drawing some blood on some cattle and doing some vaccinations over the weekend, and one of them had a little runnier poop than usual, and I stepped out of the way, and Justin laughed and said, "It's all mud till it gets in your mouth." And I said, "This is true." Luckily she missed me. So but especially putting bales out, we do round bales, we do have bale feeders, but you got to get the bale to the feeder. And we have a very large bull. He's definitely over a ton. He's about 2,300 pounds. He likes to push on the bale as you're going. While I was cutting the bale, I didn't realize he had come from the other side of the pasture, and all of a sudden I got hit, and I look up at the tractor and I'm like, "What are you doing?" And he points, and I look around, and here's Golden Boy on the other side shoving on the bale. But I thought for sure that he was trying to be a smart aleck, knock me over with the bale, but it was the bull. It was the bull. And we had one instance where the tractor was slipping a little bit in the snow, and the cow came up behind it, and she was nibbling a little bit, and then she started with her horn, and then she got pushing, and Justin yells over his shoulder, "Keep on pushing, we're almost there." And that was pretty funny too. So
she didn't know she was helping, but she was, right?
Yep, she didn't know she was working it, but she got through it. So
nice. So what are some of the goals and dreams for your breeding program?
Well, we really want to be like a known program. We would like to be known for, good genetics and conformation, nice horn. One of the things that I hear a lot in the industry, and you read a lot on comments and whatever, is, how big are the horns? How are this? But I feel like sometimes we give up some of those other things, and coming from 4-H and that show stock kind of thing where you have to have good feet and legs and you have to have reproducibility and those kinds of things, because it's great when your animal is little, they look awesome, but when they get to be full grown, 5, 6, maybe 10 years old, and they can't walk anymore, then those are the types of things that we are striving for now. We're still learning a lot. We purchased some animals at some sales that were inexpensive. They were nice looking, they had decent pedigrees, but now we're really trying to take a good hard look at our herd and say, okay, how many is a good number for us? What do we like? We look at the herd. What are the genetics? What do we like about that one? What do we like about this one? And what made that animal look like what you liked, from horn shape to, feet and legs, udder, are they reproducing on a regular cycle? All of those things. So that's our goal. And that really is the goal for the next year. And then over time, we really want to expand out, but still try to stay focused. We'd like to expand our beef program a little bit, because we have people come to us all the time asking us for, how are you processing any animals? Do you have any meat available, etc. And we do, but we don't. Like, the animals that we have are sometimes spoken for. It takes a while to grow out a Longhorn. It's not like, say, a pig, which, it is a few months process. It's a commitment for like 1.5 years. So we want to be able to do that, but we want to stay focused really on our breeding program and establish that as well. So
you had mentioned previously that both Johnny and Missy Hicks have helped you, and I'm sure they've also given you some great advice with
yes.
where you want your breeding program to go. Is there anyone else in the industry or in your area that you've gotten to know who has kind of helped you along the way, whether it be with your pedigrees or with the beef program?
We've attended a few sales. I would definitely recommend anyone that they attend some sales and whatnot. I did have the opportunity on more than one occasion to talk to Mike Willinger, just a wealth of knowledge from Hudson Longhorns, just great at answering all of the questions. We toured a few farms over time, Bear Davison, Dale Hunt, Rock and D Longhorns. We went there and just talking to them about their program, and then also listening when you're sitting at sales or at shows or visiting with other people in the industry, and you hear some of their tales that didn't go so well, where maybe they overspent or they borrowed some money that they shouldn't have, or now they're didn't plan for drought, didn't plan for expanding enough, and now don't have pasture, or those types of things. I mean, those are all things that I talk to Missy probably almost every day, if not every other day, about something like the upcoming futurity. This calf looks like this calf was born really tiny. Is that a problem? Like, should we do something different? All of those things. But speaking with Johnny as well, you've got to make a choice. Like, it took them longer than it's taken us to decide what we like and what direction we want to go. But that's because of the industry, the family, Johnny and Missy. Like, you got to make some goals. It's just like everything else in your life. Set some goals. What are you looking for? Because at the end of the day, pretty much all the Longhorns are pretty and all the calves are cute.
Very true. Very true. So some of the things you just touched on are a great segue to my next question. So what is the best advice you have for, breeders who are where you were maybe 3 years ago, breeders who are just getting started?
I would say, even though you may have been in the cattle industry and the bovine industry, to listen to what the Longhorn industry has to say. Longhorn cattle are definitely completely different than dairy or like feedlot beef type of cattle. I mean, I understand that Longhorns are beef, but they don't grow the same. The meat isn't the same. The protein content isn't the same. They have the same requirements in some cases, like for feed and protein and minerals and all of those things. But if your expectation is that your Longhorn is going to have a big fluffy butt, that is never going to happen. And you need to listen. That's the biggest thing. You need to understand the breed, just like with anything else. So maybe you're getting a new bulldog or something like that. You're going to learn something about that breed of dog so that you can properly take care of it. Like, does it need a ton of exercise, or is it a lap dog? So my biggest thing is attend some shows, attend some sales. Like I said, all of them are pretty, all the calves are cute. And when they go through the show arena and they're really, really inexpensive, they might be that way for a reason. Don't just buy based on the fact that, well, I bought 10 animals and they were only, $300 to $500 a piece. Well, now you have 10 animals that may not benefit you in any way unless you plan to A, resell them, or B, have a beef program that you're putting them into, which, if you do, that's fine. But when you're first starting out, I don't feel like if you're getting into the Longhorn breed, that's probably what your plans are. And that's the one thing that, just be careful. Don't get yourself into a situation where you've spent a lot of money and have a lot of animals, but none of them are what your goals are. So, and Johnny has been very good at guiding a lot of people, obviously, that way, where, these are the things that we need to look at as an industry, to keep the Longhorns, basically keep the breed going and expanding and whatnot. But that's my biggest thing, is don't get caught up in the pretty ones.
Well, and it's a lot of the stories you've shared and lessons you've learned. It seems like it keeps circling back to goals. Like, you have to know what your goals are before you invest any money or kind of go down a path. You just can't, unless it's truly just going to be a hobby, you just can't go, relate to all the pretty ones out there, right?
Right. And the thing is too, is that be realistic because if you have a career and say you're a doctor or an airline pilot or something like that, where you are constantly away from what you need to do, then yeah, probably a hobby is best for you, or maybe you have a hired hand or something like that. You need to also say, I want to have Longhorns, I want to have 100 Longhorns. Everybody wants all the cows, right? I mean, we do. We want all the cows, but obviously that's just not going to work out. Right. Yeah. We want all the cows. We bring them all here. No. So, but I just want to reiterate that it's hard when you first get started, because you sit down at a sale and you've got your sale book and you made a list, but then you see something else and that's because you do your research before you go to the sale. Well, I do my research before I go to the sale, because we also have another term in the house about being cow drunk and farm math.
I think we have a shirt for that. I know we have a shirt for cow drunk. I don't know, what was the other one you said?
Farm math. Like
Farm math. Okay.
Yeah, we're going to thin the herd. We sell 2 but buy 7.
Right.
It's farm math, right? I mean, a couple of those were small.
That's
They're
a good
fraction.
one. I like that.
So that's the thing. If you're starting out, and maybe if you're been into it 10 years and want to go a different direction, is just to be reasonable. And like you said, think about what your goals are, because obviously the goal of having all the cows probably isn't the best of the goals.
Probably not, no. Well, let's talk a little bit specifically about Longhorns for a few minutes.
Okay.
So if you had to pick just one in your own pasture, who would it be and why?
My favorite cow in our pasture is a cow named Steel Agent. She has a G&G brand. She is a gorgeous dapple color. Her horns, I don't know, I call it the goalpost shape, but they have variations in color to them. And she's got great conformity. She's got great horn shape. She raises big calves. She's just, and she's pretty easygoing. The amazing thing is that she is fast. If she sees you with the feed bucket and she is across the pasture, she can be to you in no time at all. And so she, when I walk through the pasture, I usually have my hand out a little bit away from me, just because then they get a better sense of how close you are to them, because getting cracked in the head with a horn hurts. Nobody's going to tell you it feels good. So, so that is the one.
Cold outside.
Yeah, exactly. Many layers on it, still hurts. So she's one that knows that boundary, and she's just really easygoing. She'll come up to you. She's pretty to look at, but she also has those attributes that we're looking for. Great conformation, love her horns, raises great calves, easy breedability, that kind of thing. So she's my favorite. We have 2 of her progeny now. She had a heifer calf this year. So, and we have the 2-year-old bull calf that I was referring to earlier is also hers here. So we have him with some of our heifers. So
I'm going to throw you a curveball here and ask you a question that I didn't put on the list. What if you had to pick your favorite Longhorn across all of Michigan, not just the thumb, all of Michigan?
Oh, boy, that'd be hard. But, every single time I see him in person, I'm just amazed by Hydro. Okay. Just his color, his mass, and just walk right up to him. He's really just an amazing looking animal. Every time you see him, he's black, he's purple, he's got that. And I feel like he's always posing, and he just has really, really great genetics. So if I was going to pick like the animal that I'd like to look out, every day and be able to see, or, you get a picture and hang it on your wall, probably he's just really cool looking. There are a ton of animals, love visiting Widespread Ranch where Hydro came from. We had a bull, WS Wrangler. He was like my favorite personal of all time. He treats out of your hands. The kids came out and took prom pictures with him. He was just easygoing, took great care of the herd. If there was anything, people shooting off fireworks, whatever, those kinds of things. But just for that, across the board genetics of what you're looking for, what we as a farm are looking for, you know, the breedability, the size, the conformation, those kinds of things. And the color is just amazing. So
What about your all-time favorite Longhorn cow? Dead or alive, doesn't matter. If you had to pick just one Longhorn cow, who would it be?
I'm gonna be, my favorite Longhorn cow is a cow that we have here in the pasture, and her name is Unlimited Ribbit, and she's a smaller cow. She has just the longest, twistiest horn. She's in the high 80s, and she's just so easy going. You just put her in the chute, and she just kind of walks straight in there, and she raises great calves. She's 16, so, you know, still going strong, but she also, if the other cows are getting sassy, will put them right in their place. So, you know, she's like, no, that's not what we're doing here today. So she's my favorite. I really like her colors. She's got the mulberry, but I just love that twisty roll of horns that she has, and just her personality. You know, is she probably the best animal in conformation that I've ever seen or anything like that? No, but personality and approachability plays a big part for us, only because we're in the pasture every single day, and we have to know that we're not going to get, you know, one of the animals isn't going to come up on you and all of a sudden you're going to get hurt. Or if we had visitors, that they, you know, we want them to be comfortable. Mm-hmm. So we constantly have people stop at the road and park on the road.
I mean, I think that's a great answer, because so many people, when asked that question, go straight for pedigree or straight for offspring and place the value on that, which is, you know, of course that's important, but I feel like that's one of the unique characteristics about Longhorns is they each have their own personality. And just like you mesh well with some friends better than others, you're always going to have some cows that you just, you know, you mesh with better. So I think that's a really good answer.
Right. Thanks.
What about if you had to pick your all-time favorite Longhorn bull?
I really do think that WS Wrangler probably is my all-time favorite bull. Just the colors that his calves had, his personality. Again, for me, it just goes back to personality. So he had great conformation and all of that. But it was just one of those things where he was always checking up on you. If you were in the pasture, he's like, do you have a treat for me? Can we, you know, those kinds of things. And for a bull that you're going to own and keep, first of all, you need to be able to trust that bull, that they're not going to come after you if cows are in heat and those kinds of things. And the bulls we have now, as well as Wrangler, and the bulls that we've leased, have all had that for us. So we are pretty lucky with that. But Wrangler was just one of those, when he walked, he stepped. He knew he was all that. You know, he was just cool to look at and to see, and you know, he was just a really cool bull, and the personality and just the friendliness, I guess, was really, really cool with him. Not to mention, you know, the dapple color and the horns and the great horn shape and all of that. But he is definitely, of the bulls that we've leased and the bulls that we've been around and whatnot, he's probably my all-time favorite, just for spending time with and hanging out.
Do you have an all-time favorite breeder or program, like if you had to group together?
Yeah, and I saw that question, and you know, a lot of things ran through my mind for that, and so of course, for me and learning and whatnot, I'm biased to Johnny and Missy and their program and what they've done. And I'm not saying that they have the best program or the greatest program, but I feel like I understand their program more, of why they did the things that they did. And maybe that's because Johnny speaks to it often, of the reasons for those. I mean, Tom Smith, like I said, Hudson Longhorns, G&G visiting their farm and whatnot. There's a lot of programs out there. And I guess for me, it's not one program, it's the more family aspect of the Longhorns, where I could walk up to you today and say, hey, I'd really like to do a farm visit. They'd be like, when do you want to come? Like, head on over, so I just feel like there's more of that family aspect in there. There's all the different colors, there's all the different horn shapes, there's all the different horn colors, there's, so there, in being new into the industry, Texas in March was the very first time that we had ever been to Texas. I've never been there before. And funny story, we drove to Texas through Arkansas. So we went in that way into Houston and went to the Houston rodeo. And the first Longhorn that we saw was at the rodeo in the petting zoo. So we drove by tons of farms and lots of cattle, but that was the first Longhorn that we saw. So I really would like to do more farm visits, and I like to just sit and listen to what the industry has to say when you're at the meetings and the futurities and the sales. Even I listen to the sales through Hired Hand, and I make notes of what the announcers are saying about different animals, just to try to learn more about what they are, because somebody says something to you about, hunts command respect, and like if I hadn't heard that name or done the research or whatever, you don't really know. You need to do your homework, and it goes back to setting those goals too. So yeah, I mean, I have my favorites, but I think there's a lot more out there for us to learn and explore.
That's a great answer. Before we switch gears and talk a little bit about your website, is there anything else that you want to share about your breeding program?
I just want to say a couple of things about like the predictability of Longhorns. So you take two animals and you put them together and you're saying, I'm going to get this. You're not. If you have that expectation, you need to just take it and put it in your pocket. You can breed two black animals and get a white animal. You can breed a red and a white to a black and get, so I just love the pattern and the diversity. And for me, I just like to do the research to figure out the genetics and the whatnot. So I always am very excited when it's calving season to see what we're going to get, when you breed these animals to those and see, how that's going to turn out. And quite honestly, did it work the way that you wanted it to or not? So, but yeah, I just would like people who maybe are not in the Longhorn industry to know that it's very diverse, and it is not the same as the other cattle industries that you may currently be involved in. So it's been very, I guess, welcoming and overwhelming at the same time. So to join the Longhorn industry. So.
Love what you're hearing? Be sure to check out our Pickup Truck Confessions. It's a video series where we hop in the truck or rental car and interview a variety of breeders about what drives their passion for their livestock, how they got started in the breed of their choice, marketing tips, and more. And now, back to the podcast.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about your website, or just websites in general, internet marketing. What is the average amount of time that you think you spend looking at Longhorn websites in a week?
That's a horrible question because it's probably a few hours, to be honest. We spend a lot of time. One of the boys was over earlier this week, and Justin and I were talking about a sale and some other things. And he said, is this what you guys do every night after dinner? Do you just sit here and talk about Longhorns? And Yeah, I guess so. So when,
What's wrong with that, right?
right. And, it's kind of called the norm, now. So, but yeah, I spend a few hours a week, probably. Sometimes more, sometimes less. If you're sitting a long time in the car, you're going to be, but it's definitely a few hours checking out websites and seeing what people have, and mostly their for sale page, or um, you know, Arrowhead does the nice where it's the 90 club or the 80 club or whatever, that always draws your attention to, like, oh, what else do they have?
So on just a general breeder site, like aside from Arrowhead, you mentioned the for sale page. Is there anything else that will kind of pull you in and make you stay on one site longer than another?
Really, for me, the eye-catching colors and pictures, like some of the websites, they are just, I don't know, not as eye-catching. So you look at your specific thing, but then you kind of just move on to the next one, or you move through the pedigrees or whatever. But for me, it's really how people are taking their pictures. What are they doing with those pictures? How are they marketing their animals and whatnot? Are there multiple pictures of that animal? But for me, it's the color and the pictures. And that's probably maybe not the norm for people. But for me, like, if it's a really cool, colorful website, then I'm like, oh, I want to check that out more. So.
Well, and I think that is evident with your design, that you're drawn towards color, because, a lot of the new customers we get on, or the sites that we work on, we'll get a lot of similar feedback. I want rustic colors, or I want, neutral colors. But you just went, like, you have purple and green, I think, or is it purple or orange and green?
It's purple. And yeah, like a bright green. Yep.
Yes. So like, we don't get that many requests for that. So that one was kind of fun to work on and see it kind of come to be. So I think it's a great way to stand out against some of those more neutral sites.
And when I was provided, and I know I worked primarily with Angie, the websites to choose from, like the home pages, the designs, the whatnot. For me, our design was more like, I want to be able to see the same things or a similar thing, not only mobile, but when I was on my computer. And so that's why I chose like the bright colors and the BF. And I think that we had the BF in a circle and just a circle. There were 4 things that we could choose from. And I did send it out to the kids and said, tell me which one you like the best. And we all agreed that it was the one that grabbed your eye, whether you were on a little tiny screen or a big screen. And that was important for us to, to be able to, like you said, be eye-catching, to have the brighter colors and the whatnot. I don't know. I'm not really a neutral color person.
Hey, you gotta do what works for you, right?
That's right. Yep. I mean, that everybody has their, and I think part of it too is that there's some things to be said for neutral colors and how, they are more pleasing or whatever. But working in with different websites and working with marketing and things like that, you're bombarded with so much information. What is going to grab your attention? People said something, I can't remember who it was, but we were sitting there and all of a sudden they said, wow, they repeated that a lot. I said, I know, but it got your attention. Like they said that same thing over and over again, but you remember it now.
Right.
So those colors, those are 2 colors that we've kind of had for a while. And I just really, I think they don't seem like they would go well together, but they do.
They're complementary, right? Green and purple.
Right. Yeah. Right. Right. Exactly.
So I'm curious what your favorite hired hand website besides your own would be, just knowing you're drawn to like big, bold colors and stuff.
I like all of the pictures that are on like the Michigan Mafia website. I like the Michigan Mafia website for the information, and all of the pictures. For the bright, just like grab your attention. The Rock and D website is an awesome website for that. You know, the red and the black and the big bold type in the pictures and things like that. And also just going back to that, am I on my phone or am I on my laptop? I'm getting the same feeling, I'm getting the same information. Nothing annoys me more where like I'm like, okay, I have to go to my computer because that's just not telling me what I want to do. Not necessarily with hired hand websites or animal websites, but just in general. So I really don't. I am easily sent away or lose interest if there's details that aren't available there. And that's a quick thing.
For sure. For sure. And I don't think responsive websites are going anywhere based on Google's trajectory. So that'll be more and more important.
Right.
So we talked a little bit about how it's you and your husband's kind of nightly routine to look at websites. If you had to recall the last 3 Longhorns in your search history, would you be able to?
Yeah, I guess we sweep around a lot based on the hired hand upcoming sales of how much time we're going to spend on a specific website. The Brushwood Ranch, we spent quite a bit of time on that website, checking those pedigrees out and whatnot. So I am going to say that probably hired hand live auction site is the main website that is always in the search history, other than our own, of course.
So you're one of the ones that contributes when we report the top 5 viewed animals. We can pretty much count that you're one of those. You're one of those clicking on them.
Probably. Yeah.
I like it.
Yep.
What's your go-to social media if you're looking to just find Longhorns out there for sale?
Probably Facebook, to be honest. So I think that the Longhorn News and the Longhorn Friends does a lot with the marketing and whatnot. A lot of people put their website on there. And you can click on the website, you can go to that animal, you can click on the pictures, you can go to the animals that are what I like, especially about the hired hand websites, and I don't know if I'm jumping ahead or not, but when I'm there and I want to find out more about that animal, then I can see the other animals associated with it. The progeny site is in, the list of progeny and whatnot is really what I like. When I go to Facebook and I see that and I see that they have the pedigree in there, a lot of times I'll go to the hired hand site now, look that up. I'll go to that person's website or try to find that person from that Facebook post.
So do you have a social media platform that you prefer to use when you're going to market your animals?
Yeah, I also use Facebook, our personal site, as well as some of the Longhorn groups, and I copy and paste from my hired hand website into my post so that it's part of the post so people can immediately click on that link and go to our website.
So I'll tell you a little secret. When you're on an animal on your website, there's a little share button. I don't know if you've ever seen it, kind of down by where it says if it's like Millennium for Charity eligible and stuff.
Yeah.
If you click that, then you don't have to copy and paste.
Okay. Yeah. No, I've seen it, but I'm not going to lie. I definitely look at our site and see that there's some things that we could do better. Taking some more pictures, updating the photo gallery, some pictures, like the animal isn't in the best pose or those kinds of things. And those are all things that take patience and whatnot. But the other thing is with the website, for me doing it, it's one of those things where, okay, I have 15 minutes. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to update all of these things. So I have not done my due diligence and clicking all the buttons to figure out all the little tips and tricks yet. But yes, thank you. I appreciate that. I will start using that more.
It's not like copy and paste is hard, but just so you know it's there next time.
Okay. Yeah, I did see it there, but I was like, what am I sharing if I share that?
I think it pulls up, if I remember correctly, it pulls up a preview of your main picture, your profile, like the main picture of the animal. And then I think it also previews like the sales comments or the description, depending on what you have filled out. But then you can still customize like what you're going to say about it.
Right. Gotcha. Okay.
Okay. So if you had to describe your own hired hand website in 3 words or less, and I'm just going to say you can't use purple and green because we already talked about that. What would the 3 words be?
Work in progress.
I like it.
I feel like the websites, websites always need continuous improvement. People come back and they're like, oh, that's the same. It's you do want to keep working on it. So
for sure. Are you the only one that makes updates, or do you have anyone that helps you?
No, right now I am the only one making updates. So we I'm the one that's taking most of the pictures and whatnot, and then I am the one making the updates just because it's just easier for me to do it when I have time as opposed to try to explain to somebody. And I guess as we get along and things grow or expand and I'm more comfortable with it, I probably will have one of the kids also help me do it. But at this time, I'm doing it mostly so I can learn how to do it, get better at it and whatnot. But also when I look at it and I'm like, oh, I need to reword that differently or change that, or, go through my camera roll and find a little different picture focus, angle, something like that, so that those animals are more. Marketing your own animals is hard. Doing the descriptions like, great personality, feel like you're on a dating site sometimes.
It's so important though. I mean, not only for search engine optimization, but just to hook those people who maybe like the visual appeal, but they need to go look at the pedigree and see what you have to say. So important.
Right. Yes. Yep. And so that's what I've been working on a little bit when I read through it. Is this something that would attract me to this animal? What could you say? And I think every industry has some buzzwords that they use, too. And so to try to utilize some of those, but not overdo it. You don't want to do every single one. And also as you're learning more about the pedigrees, that, oh, well, you have this great group in your pedigree and you're not mentioning it, So the cow that I had mentioned earlier, Steel Agent, she goes back to the Wichita Refuge. And that was just very interesting to me when I was on the hired hand site to just, how you just keep clicking back and you can get back there for them. Like, oh, that's really interesting, to see kind of that history of your own animals too, and to utilize that when you're marketing those animals or even describing them, even if they're not for sale. Like Ribbit, the one that I mentioned earlier, she'll live here forever. She's not one that we would say like, oh, we're going to put her on the sale page, kind of thing. So, but we still need to do a good job at describing her or whatnot. You can't just, I guess, give up because you're not interested in selling the person. Because when you are interested in selling to a person, then you need to be able to use those marketing tools. And if you're not practicing on it on all your animals, then you're probably not going to get proficient at it later on.
Great advice. So last question here. What made you choose Hired Hand for your website?
Really, it was the ease of use, the reputation that Hired Hand has, and that all the information that you can share and link to others. Like I was saying earlier, you can go back quite a ways. You can look at progeny. For me personally, I started entering in some of the medical information, the horn measurements, vaccination dates, vet visits. If in all of those things, it's really nice to have a repository for all of the information that you need to manage your farm in one location and not have to switch between, like, oh, I have this notebook that I keep everything in, and then I have this chart over here, and I have this spreadsheet over here, and they, even though you may not be showing all of the pictures that you have or all of the horn measurements, that's at least stored there for you so you can go back to it later. And with anyone who gets started, we took the advice of you and Angie and started with the lower 30 animal one, just because you can always go more, but you can't go less. So
for your
maybe
first year.
Yeah, right, exactly. Just getting started, you need to figure that out. And that was great advice, because there are some animals there too that you have that aren't necessarily animals that you're sharing with everyone for whatever reason, and who knows what those reasons are, but at least you can still store all that information. And for us, it makes it nice because our website changes more regularly, because we activate and deactivate certain animals to make it so, oh, look, there's a new one out there, check out the animal we just added to the page or whatever. So, but that is the biggest thing, talking to other people in our little group and just looking around, was just Hired Hand's reputation for the most part, of the training, just the back and forth, the text messages, quick questions. Like, I don't know what this means. What do you want from me? I mean, the patience, it was just really easy to work with you guys. And quite honestly, the website, even if you're not a techie person, I work with computers all day, so maybe some things are more intuitive to me, but it seems really easy. Click my animals, add a photo, it's very simple to follow for the things that you need to do. I haven't really run across anything yet where I'm like, that makes sense. I love the fact that you can see, like, I bought this animal and I can click on progeny, or say you bought an animal that was already bred and you really don't know as much about that animal, that bull's progeny. You can look and you can see the other progeny. Or if you're hunting for something in particular, like, I want more of this, you can go to the Hired Hand site and you can find the animal and then figure out, okay, who may have what you're looking for sale. So it's just there's a lot of diversity in there. It has a lot of options, but for me, it was mostly the reputation. Am I going to be able to get this done? And am I going to be able to keep up with it? And it's been really easy to use. So,
well, good. That's what we like to hear. But if you ever do come across something that doesn't make sense, you have to tell us. So I'm glad you haven't yet, but you have to promise to tell us. So
yeah, well, like I said, it is a work in progress. So as I add more things, I may be reaching out to you and Angie.
Sounds good. We're always here. So well, thank you so much for joining us today. We will put your URL in the show notes. We'll put the URLs of the ranches you mentioned in there. And hopefully all of the listeners will now know about the Thumb of Michigan and also go check out your website.
Yes, that'd be great. Thanks.